presence of God, until God moves in your life, until you see God. Sometimes when you get up, you may not feel anything. You may not see God doing anything. But the truth of the matter is, God doesn't always show you right when he's getting ready to move. You just look around and it'll be done. So you got to seek his face. Not only do you seek his face, but you got to turn. And this is where we all just seem to fall short. We want to be humble. We want to seek him, but we don't want to turn. That's where we stop doing those things that keep us away from God. That's where we stop doing those things that keep us out of the glory of God. That's those things that keep us out of the very presence of God. So we've got to turn. Turn means to turn. It means to position yourself differently. It means to go in another direction. It means to act a different way. Turn from your wicked ways. That means you can't just say, I'm turning, and still do what you want to do during the week. You can't turn and still do what you want to do and come here on Sunday and act like you lived holy all week. It ain't going to work. So you got to turn from your wicked ways. If my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray, seek my face, then turn from your wicked ways. Stop lying. Stop cheating. Stop drinking. Stop smoking. Stop cursing. Stop dipping and dabbing. Creeping and crawling. Stop that foolishness. Those very things that keep you from the presence of God. Those very things that make it so hard for you to come in here and get in the very presence of God. When we walk into this tabernacle, it should not be that hard to give God praise. When we come in here, it should not be that hard to get into the presence of God. But we allow the devil to make us sit back and think that something that's miraculous and spectacular has to happen. That somebody's got to levitate and fall across the room before we realize that God is God. He is God. If you're able to inhale and exhale, that's enough to give God praise. That's enough to give God glory. So we got to do those things. We got to let go of those things. Not only those things,
hallelujah,
but we got to let go of some people. Some people that are holding us back. Because we always want to be friends with the friendly. And the friendly ain't always the ones that you need to talk to. The friendly ain't always the one that you need to be around. Listen, I'm going to say it like this. Even in the church, there are people in the church who know that you're anointed to do what God has called you to do. And they don't latch to you because they just like you. They don't hook up with you just because you're wonderful. They don't hook up with you because when you're with me, I look better today than I did yesterday. They hook up with you because they want to suck the life out of you. They want to suck all of your anointing. They want to take every bit of spirit. Some people just jealous and they just want to be you. You ain't all that wonderful, but they want to be you. They want to be able to do some of the things that you do. But you got to understand that sometimes you got to turn from some people. You got to tell them, listen, God is taking me in another direction. So I can't sit up on the phone and talk about Sister So. I can't talk about Brother Gregory. I can't do it. I can't sit up in here and let you just gossip with me. And I just take it all in like a big old Burger King Whopper. I just eat every piece of it. I just live and love it. And I just feast off of your foolishness. Because all you going to end up doing is walking around with all that foolishness destruction. Once God pulls you out of something that's getting ready to sniff you out, you don't go back to that. If God heals your body, you don't go back to being sick. If God delivers your home, you don't go back to letting the devil rule and control it. If God blesses your bank account, you don't just go spending crazy. But you make sure you give God the best praise. You make sure you give God the best glory. You make sure you acknowledge who He is and what He's done. Listen, He already knows it. But sometimes He just wants us to tell Him, God, I thank you. God, I love you. You've been good. You've been better to me than I've ever been to myself. You've been better to me than my family has been. You've been better to me than my friends have been. So God, I want to thank you. He's going to touch my body. When the doctor said no, you said yes. When the bank said no, you said yes. And God turned that thing around. So what are you doing? You've got to learn that there are steps to follow. You've got to learn to follow the ingredients. If you want that food to turn out right, you better use just what it says use. And if you want the glory of God on your life, you got to do just what God tells you to do. If He says don't talk to so-and-so, if He says get on the other side of the street, you better skip your butt to the other side of the street. If He says sit there and be quiet and pray, you better close your mouth and hum and anoint it. You better shut your face and let be quiet. You don't want God to shut you up. You better let God be God. Let God be God. I told somebody the other day, you cannot be God. If you make a mistake, the song says we fall down, but we get up. And I told somebody the other day, you are not God. So if you fall and get up, and God forgives you, then you go forward. Forgiveness means to go forward. It doesn't mean to stay there. And it doesn't mean to wallow in your pity. It doesn't mean to wallow in your mess. It means to move forward. So it simply means that when God forgives you, you can't take on the position of God and say, well, I'm going to punish myself because God just ain't doing it the way I want it done. I want to starve to death. I want to turn my face to the wall. I don't want to speak to nobody. I don't want to do nothing. God said, I forgive you. Go forward. That means you open your mouth and you give God the best praise. You don't worry about what people say. You don't worry about what people think. You don't worry about what people do. You only be quiet. And it's only accounted to you what you do. So you got to bless Him. But in all of this, you got to understand that the process that we have to go through is to lead us to the success in God. And it's not even in us, but it's in God. So you got to understand, we learned this back in Sunday school. And I think if I remember correctly, it's to confess, repent, believe, and accept. Confess, repent, believe, I think that's the 4 steps to salvation. And so we learned that early. But there's those are steps. Somebody called me the other day and said, what is the procedure? What is the protocol for just being forgiven? I said, when you ask God to forgive you, you move on. You're forgiven. If God speaks to you and say, I forgive you, when you going to go back and tell him, no, God, you don't forgive me? If he says it, then it's done. When God died, when Jesus died on the cross, it was finished. It was done. So if my people, which I call by my name, that means us. We are his people. And we are the children of God. So we are called by his name. It's up to us. Listen, some things we can ask God to do and some things you don't want. And I know I said earlier, sometimes you got to tell God just do it. But sometimes you don't want God to humble you. You don't want God to humble you. You want to ask God to help you. Because God's humbling is going to be precise and direct. And you may not be able to help. So you don't want to tell God, just humble me. God, help me. Humble myself. Help me. Now deliver me, yes. God, deliver me. Set me free. Because sometimes we say that, and at the same time we're still holding on to that thing. All right. That's been keeping us back. God, I'm delivered. I'm blessing you, Lord. I'm just giving you praise. with my right hand, Lord. With my right hand. This holy hand right here, Lord. And at the same time, that left hand ain't let go enough. All right. So I'm just simply saying, if you want God to bless you and really deliver you, you got to let go. And let God have his way. So if my people which are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn. And then what he says, I will hear from heaven. I will hear your prayers. And sometimes we think, I just been praying, and I just been praying, and I've been asking God to do this and do that, and God just ain't doing it. God just ain't doing it. God said, because you ain't following the instructions. You done skipped C and D. You did A and B, but you ain't doing everything. There's a process. So once you learn what the process is, then you do what God tells you to do. And in 1 Corinthians 2 and 9, this is the promise. One of the promises that God has made. And it just says, but it is written, I have not seen, nor ear heard, neither have it entered into the heart of man, the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But we've got to learn to follow instructions. The missing ingredient when things don't go right in your life, oh, it is Jesus. Yes, it is Jesus. It's Jesus in my soul. For I have touched the hem of his garment, and his blood has made me whole. Oh, it is Jesus. That's the missing ingredient. We want all of the glory and all of the things that God has for us, but we don't acknowledge Jesus. We want the blessings of God, but we don't acknowledge Jesus. We want the things that God has for us, but we don't acknowledge Jesus. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves in prayer, seek my face and turn from your wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I will heal the land. I'll turn it around in the midnight hour. I'll make it right. God says he'll make the crooked straight. He'll heal your body, even when the doctor says no. He'll give you what you need. But you got to understand that the missing ingredient is Jesus. We want to try to figure out why things are not going right in our lives. Why things just don't seem to be the way that we may have planned it, the way that we may have figured it out or scored it, however you want to say it. We have this plan for our lives, and we think that it's just not going right. It's just not, and we don't understand why. I'm here today, and I'm finished. I'm here today to tell you that the missing ingredient, that missing factor, that thing that will turn everything in your life around, that thing that will make everything better in your marriage, on your job, in your home. You got some wayward children? I got the answer for you today. The missing ingredient is Jesus.